Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another fantastic-ish episode of Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion. Before we get started, let me first remind you that we are covered by the BIP-COT No Government License, which allows for the use and reuse of this podcast by anyone and everyone except for governments and the bludgies thereof. You can learn more about that at bipcot.org. That is bipcot.org. We're also protected by Brandenburg v. Ohio 1969, which ruled that the government cannot punish inflammatory speech unless that speech is, quote, directed to inciting or promoting imminent lawless action or is likely to incite or produce such action. Yeah, I wasn't reading it.
How many times? Yeah, how many times have we done this?
I wasn't reading it, but like the last 10 times I've just done it off memory because I've said it enough times by now that it's memorized. So yes, everything we say here is almost always in Minecraft. Hypothetical.
Isn't that'll save us?
Yes. It's legal in the Redoubt.
Yeah.
What? Oh my god. So yes, that is it's just me and Andrew tonight.
It's
because Chris can't drive right on lawnmowers and rolled one over and hurt himself.
in the interest of fairness, his lawn is like this. Like it's just hill.
Yes. He still has all his appendages. Yeah. And Derek is playing Supermom, so it's just me and Andrew. And yeah, it's all right. We have good conversations usually.
Yeah, the problem is that there's no one to temper the talk considering the title. So.
Yes, we are talking secession. We are fired up. We are ignited. We are ready to go because, well,
let's go.
It's one of the reasons we're all about it. But secession. Let's get that definition out of the way. Secession. Secession is a noun. It means the action of withdrawing formally from membership of a federation or body, especially a political state. Now, secession is different than state partition. State partition means to separate and form a new state. So it's taking part of a state, creating a new state, or taking part of a state and creating a new state out of it. So state partition is a change of political borders, cutting through at least one territory considered a homeland by some community. Right, so state partition and secession are not the same thing. Right, so when we say a secessionist movement, we're talking about leaving the formally withdrawing from a federation or a body. So it's leaving the whole, right, such as the New Hampshire bill or the Texas secession movement. It's no longer being a part of the United States, as opposed to like the State of Jefferson or Liberty up there in Washington or Greater Idaho. It's moving state borders or taking parts of state or states and creating a different state.
Yeah,
right. It's not technically a secession.
Yeah, what the southern states actually did essentially was, I mean, the initial ones technically seceded because they simply removed this area from the United States. Once they formed the CSA, some of like the second and third wave of states that left the U.S., they were the ones that were actually technically just state partitioning.
Yes, move from one state to another. So, I don't know, just to get us started, let's before we get into the New Hampshire stuff, let's get into a few secession, state partition movements in the United States. And I have a bunch of notes. I know you already saw the notes, but yep. I actually have notes, you guys. I actually did real research other than just collect some links for you.
It's like we're becoming a professional podcast or something.
Yes.
That's weird.
The P word is a bad word on this podcast.
Yeah, that's the hell. Why are we? How the hell is this happening? We're starting to like actually do things like in an organized manner.
I mean, you guys used it the other day with the thingy that shall not be named because we don't want to lose monetization.
Yeah, we did it when we talked law and went through laws that apply to stuff.
That thing.
Yeah, and that I actually almost completely scripted that out. I mean, we went off script quite a bit, but we did actually kind of script that whole thing out. So
yeah, this is an article from worldatlas.com. Let's see. The Conch Republic. The Conch Republic is a micronation located in Florida. On April 3rd, 1982, it jokingly declared secession from the United States. Dennis Wardlow, the mayor of the region at the time, declared the secession. The separation claims were not serious, but serious issue led to the claim. The mayor and the people of Key West felt like the U.S. by setting up roadblocks to the area to stop and search vehicles, had already set the area aside as a different region. The area took on the name Conch, that is C-O-N-C-H, as the people were named Conches. The mock secession has been used to promote tourism in the city. In 2008, protesters came up from the northern keys that separated from the Conch Republic to form the independent northmost territories of the Conch Republic. So that's kind of jokingly, but it's also kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, and they're demonstrating that it really can be just that simple. That you just go, we're done.
Yeah,
it's just that easy. Because what are you gonna do?
Yeah, Cascadia. Cascadia is a cool one. It's got this really cool flag. It's a blue, white, green striped horizontal, and then in the middle is a big giant spruce tree. It's that one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty flag. But Cascadia is a bioregion and a proposed or pro-offered country that may include British Columbia. That's the southwestmost region of Canada, Washington and Oregon, and there's also some reports on it that said it would include like the Del Norte and Humboldt County of Northern California.
Okay, so like the northern,
and then yeah.
Well, Humboldt County's pretty much its own thing anyway, so.
Oh yeah, yeah. You'll get lost going in that. But the total area of this state would have been 534,592 square miles. Cascadia Independence Movement is a secessionist movement campaigning for the separation of the region from the U.S. The movement stated that they wanted independence to improve on bioregionalism and environmentalism. Which makes sense. Like, if you excluded Eastern Washington, Eastern Oregon, like the eastern sides of the Cascades, and you just went from the Cascades west, like that really is an entirely different bioregion than the eastern half.
Yeah, I mean it's very well. Yeah, I mean you're looking at coastal versus like what the high rainforest. So. Yeah. You're seeing completely different biome between the two.
California. California is a state in the U.S. situated in the Pacific region. Is the third largest state in a population of 39.3 million. This is old. The state has the biggest economy in the U.S. separatist movements. Proposed secession to form Second Californian Republic or New California. The Yes California Independence campaign was formed in August 2015. After the 2016 elections, Californians were offended by Trump remarks on minority groups. The organizations was supposed to gather signatures to be able to hold a referendum on the proposal for separation, but they decided to put the proposal on hold. The California National Party is a political party also fighting for secession. That party is led by Theo Slater, who also heads Yes California. The California National Party is yet to be registered as a political party. So there's two different things here. There was the one that just to remove California completely, and then there was the Yes not Yes California. It's the one of the other California secessionist movements, and it was to break up California into 6 separate states.
Yeah, there's California is one of 2 states that was a completely 3 states that were completely independent countries unto themselves.
Yeah.
California, Texas, and Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
Hawaii was its own country for a very long time till the U.S. just showed up and went, yeah, so listen, Kamehameha, about that.
Yeah. That's
you're
because
us
Kamehameha
now.
didn't want to get Captain Cooked.
Yeah, so he acquiesced. But I mean, that's California. California going back to being an independent country, I suppose, would objectively make sense because
it would be an independent top 10 economy in the world.
Yeah, and realistically, what does California need the rest of the United States? No, it really doesn't.
No,
at all. It's got enough people. It's
California's biggest export is conservatives and small business.
I was gonna say people fleeing California, refugees.
So jokingly, I was listening to a podcast like 2 weeks ago. This prepper podcast. A couple moved from Western Washington to Western Montana, and they're talking about the cost of moving trucks. Like to pick up a moving truck where they were at in the Olympia area and drop it off in the Kalispell, Montana area was something like $12,000 to rent the moving truck, which is fucking ridiculous, right?
Why?
However, if they flew to Kalispell and picked up a moving truck, drove it to Western Washington, loaded it up, drove it back to Kalispell, it would cost them I think it was like $2,100. And if they drove it back to Western Washington again and left it in Western Washington, the company would have actually paid them like $600.
Holy shit!
Because
that's enough to cover your flight all the way back home.
That's because the West Coast greatest export right now is people. People fleeing California, fleeing Oregon, fleeing Western Washington. And all those like U-Hauls and moving trucks and all those other stuff, they're getting left in like Arizona, Texas, the Redoubt area.
Yeah, they're just building up. I'm sure there's fields of U-Hauls sitting in these places. Just fields of them.
The CSA, Confederate States of America, we don't need to go into that one.
Yeah, that's been beaten to death.
Yes. Lakota. The Republic of Lakota was a projected independent republic for the Lakota people and other populations in North America. Russell Means, you know who that name Russell means. He was an actor. He was an activist. On the day he died, lightning struck the White House. The country would have consisted of the states of Wyoming, Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, and South Dakota. December 17, 2017, Russell Means and 3 other members of Lakota Freedom delegations went to Washington, D.C. to declare their wish to separate from the U.S. and to form the Republic of Lakota. The group felt that the U.S. government did not protect the rights of American Indian people.
Well, and of course, the Sioux would name it after themselves.
Well,
what a surprise.
Have you ever met a Lakota version?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know them.
Yeah, what a surprise. Well, and just the entire surrounding mythos of the Sioux and how they, the fact that they actually left northern Wisconsin and Minnesota, conquered a bunch of territory, and then declared, oh, we actually came from the Black Hills and this is our sacred land and we were always meant to be here. Like, none of you were here. You took that. You took that from people.
That sounds a lot like another group.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. There's a part in a movie, and I can't remember what movie it is, where this Union commander or this federal commander is arguing with this Sioux chief, where he's talking about how it's his sacred land and everything else. He's like, no, don't give me that bullshit. He's like, you got guns from the French. You left the northern Minnesota and Wisconsin territories. You came here. You used the guns to conquer a bunch of other people, and then said, this is ours now, and we are here to do something for no less noble a cause.
Here's one. New England. New England is a region that compromises of 6 states in the northeastern region of the U.S. Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts. In 1620, which is before the U.S. actually existed, the area was an English settlement. The New England independence movement was an active secessionist movement. They wanted to form an independent state that would have the interest of New England population at heart.
Gee, that sounds familiar for New England and
there's
in
also,
centuries that would come after.
There's also a more modern Vermont secessionist movement, but it's not. It's more of it's more of an ethno-state thing than anything else. So, yeah. Texas nationalist movement and the Texas secession movement have been actively advocating for secession of the state to become the Republic of Texas again. Talks about secession beginning in the 1990s with the Republic of Texas organization, the Texas National Movement led by Daniel Miller. In 1861, Texas seceded and joined the Confederacy until the Confederation was disbanded. The Texas National Movement is campaigning for peaceful secession rather than using violence. In 2016, after the UK exited the European Union, talk about secession came up with Texas using the hashtag Texit on social media.
Well,
I have been seeing the New Hampshire exit one. It's not like all around, but I have been seeing it.
Well, and that makes sense because, when Brexit happened, there was renewed secession movements in the UK. Sort of secession. The UK's political thing is really weird, and
there was a Scotland.
Yep, Scotland. Movement. Yep, both Scotland and Wales.
And then the voters chose to stay.
They chose to stay 51% to 49%. So it was very, very nearly passed, at which point they would have ceased to be part of the United Kingdom and would have become, once again, their own kingdom. A lot of people forget Scotland was, in fact, its own kingdom. And not only that, but realistically, originally, the war between Scotland and England, Scotland actually won that.
Yeah, the sad William Wallace memes, that was those were pretty good.
Yeah, and which is a little historically disingenuous because it's really Robert the Bruce who did it and not really William Wallace, but whatever. It's it works, it's fine. But it's the Scotland, remember what actually joined Scotland and England was not the English, it was the Scottish. The Scottish actually won that and took over England, not the other way around. It's just that now things have kind of flipped back the other way because Britain didn't really see it that way. But
here's one: Alaska. The country became a member state of the U.S. on January 3rd, 1959. The Alaskan Independence Party is a political party in Alaska that rallied votes for secession of the state from the U.S. The party was founded on June 14th, 1984 by Joe Vogler. In 2006, members of the party wanted a referendum for Alaska to separate from the U.S., but the Supreme Court found the proposal unconstitutional, and it did not take place.
Unconstitutional? That's a load of crap.
Yeah. And then Vermont, I'm not going to give voice to that movement because of what I said earlier. And then Hawaii. Hawaii joined the U.S. August 21st, 1959. Let's see.
Makes it seem so consensual. Joined,
yes.
As if they had a choice.
Hawaii Independence Party formed on April 30th, 1900. So the Hawaii Independence Party is actually older than the state of Hawaii.
Yeah, because the Hawaiian Territory or whatever, it wasn't officially a state yet.
The Nation of Hawaii organized by Dennis, whose name I cannot pronounce because I'm really white, is the oldest secessionist group in the state. The aim to make Hawaii a republic rather than reinstate its former monarchy. The Hawaiian political party that was formed in 2015. The party aims to Hawaii to be an independent and to become an economic hub in the Pacific Ocean. There is a Hawaiian sovereignty movement, which was formed by activists and small groups, also seeking for separation. And they have quoted a marginalization of the people of Hawaii and the erosion of their culture.
Oh, yeah. It's completely taken away after the U.S. took over, just completely. And it's been turned into, much like another small tropical island you may have heard of, been turned into the playground of the rich.
Yes.
And we know how that worked out for the other small near the United States coast. Tropical island.
Let's see. Where do you want to? Let's jump into the state of Jefferson real quick because, that's my home turf.
And I am a State of Jefferson patch.
I am wearing a State of Jefferson patch because I believe in the state of Jefferson. The state of Jefferson was a dream that Northern California and Southern Oregon shared to succeed in creating a new state. The concept of state of Jefferson started in 1852 when a bill was introduced in the California state legislature meeting at Vallejo. This is before Sacramento became the state capital. The bill died in committee and the proposal was never acted upon. After Oregon was incorporated as a state in 1859, miners in the area refused alliance to either state government and declined to pay taxes. During the Civil War, some settlers were interested in creating a northern haven for slavery, but fortunately this failed. Okay, fast forward 1941. The dream was sparked by certain counties in Oregon, or California and Oregon decided that they were not being fairly represented in Sacramento and Salem. This will be an ongoing theme throughout throughout Jefferson and then through the other ones that I made notes for, as well as the New Hampshire one. It's because they don't feel represented. They don't feel represented by the federal government, by the state governments, by democracy, by all that other stuff. They don't feel like their voices are heard.
Well, this is exactly what led to the American Revolution. The colonists did not feel that the government that was running them actually cared what they had to say and had their best interests at heart, so they decided to split. It's an American tradition.
So did not feel represented in Sacramento and Salem. This was a region that earned a living off the lumber, fishing, and other harvesting businesses in the area that they felt the government was not distributing infrastructure funding equally to the area. Mainly poor road quality and lack of bridges made it difficult to earn a living in this remote area. They wanted to break away and form their own state to improve their lifestyles by governing themselves with their own laws. If you've ever been to Northern California, Southern Oregon, again, it's a very dry area. The rivers, the creeks, the pond, the lakes, they're very important to the people. The terrain, due to Mount Lassen's eruption, there's a lot of volcanic dust, and the ground is very hard. It's a very hard place to make a living, and when you add a liberal government on top of a place that makes it difficult to live, you get very, very, very difficult area to live.
Yeah, that area is surreal. Like if you off-road, because I've done overlanding out there, if you off-road there, it is this surreal landscape of just like that volcanic rock and ash and stuff with just like pine trees poking up through it. And it's the weirdest place. It's so unique and so different there. But yeah, I can't even imagine trying to scratch a living out of that place.
No, there's a reason the last Native American in California, Oshie, I want to say his name was the last wild Indian is what they called him.
Yeah, because he was the last member of a tribe that hadn't had any contact with the Western world at all. Still.
Yeah, and they found him up near Orville in I want to say the 1950s. Right, so there were still people living a primitive lifestyle up until the 1950s in the area because there just wasn't people.
It took them forever to find somebody that could translate because no one spoke that tribe's language.
Yep.
And they finally found somebody who was from a tribe that had neighbored them once upon a time that spoke a little bit who could then manage to translate.
Wairika, a town in Northern California, liked the concept of forming the 49th state. The Wairika Chamber of Commerce persuaded the Siskiyou County Board of Supervisors to look into the possibility of forming a 49th state. So this is a 49th state. So there was 48 at the time because this is before Hawaii and Alaska became states.
Yep.
So the Siskiyou County Board of Supervisors voted to allocate $100 to reach their responsibility. It was to consist of Siskiyou, Del Norte, and Modoc County, California, along with Curry, Josephine, and Jackson County in Oregon. So this is the three southernmost counties in Oregon, the three northernmost counties in California. It has been expanded now. I believe that there's 10 or 12 in California, and then I think there's like 8 in Oregon. So if the state of Jefferson were to happen today, I think it would be in the top 10 largest states in the United States.
That would be interesting if that were to happen, because I mean, especially if it breaks away as its own country, you have a very strange instance where you have this huge chunk that just all at once is taken out of this country. And I mean, it's
a natural resource rich area.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely resource rich area, but Oregon and California, Sacramento and Salem, they don't let people, harvest the natural resources.
Yep.
The Chamber of Commerce decided the new state would be named Middle Westcoastia. But the local paper, the Siskiyou Daily News, ran a local contest to name the new states, such as the states of Orofino, Bonanza, Del Siskiyou, Ciscardelamello, New West, New Hope, Discontent, and Jefferson were some of the names submitted.
Discontent would be great. The state of discontent. Nice. I see.
In the end, the name Jefferson was chosen, and the winner of the contest, J.E. Mundell, was awarded $2.
$2. Give me my $2.
The State of Jefferson Citizens Committee was formed, which was made up of mostly members of Wairika's 2030 Club, and announced that the State of Jefferson would be created every Thursday night until recognized. Each Thursday night, members would go out onto Highway 99 at a location where it entered the boundaries of the State of Jefferson and would cover the signs with sheets that said State of Jefferson on them. Just driving up 99. Once you get north of Sacramento, you go 99. Like five goes way west, but if you go 99 up through Sutter County, up through Yuba City, once you get north of Yuba City, you start seeing the State of Jefferson signs.
That's so. I mean, and
it's so fantastic.
It's
you can also there's a barn if you go north on 70 out of Marysville heading towards Orville. There's a barn that has State of Jefferson painted on the side. That's Butte County.
Nice.
It's cool.
The civil disobedience shall continue until independence improves.
Oh, just wait. Cover the signs with sheets that says State of Jefferson on them. They would then set up roadblocks, and activists on horseback with guns would stop traffic and hand out copies of the Proclamation of Independence and red and white blue shield stickers, which read, quote, "I have visited Jefferson, the 49th state," and then let the people through. It's cool, right? In the meantime,
this is a border checkpoint. Here's our Declaration of Independence. Here's your
here's a sticker.
I visited Jefferson sticker. Have a nice night.
Every Thursday. In the meantime, Wairikans, that is the people of Wairika, were not amused when a California legislator commented on the floor of the state assembly that the, quote, northern border counties bartered only in bear claws and eagle beaks. That's the mindset.
That's patronizing as fuck. Oh, I'd be absolutely livid.
This attitude led the citizens of the area to be receptive when the Siskiyou Daily News ran a banner headline stating, quote, "Siskiyou has been double-crossed again," on the November 3, 1941. Thus, Wairika was designated the temporary state capital, and the State of Jefferson seal was created. The seal was a mining pan etched with a double cross representing the long-time injustice suffered by the hands of Salem and Sacramento. The seal clearly illustrates that the area has been double-crossed once too often. So, on my patch here, you can see the double X's. That is the official seal of the State of Jefferson, and that is a mining pan. If you know anything about mining, the circle with the inner circle. So Yeah.
The double cross. Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yes. The State of Jefferson Citizens Committee continued to create notoriety with their antics for the movement by declaring that the new state would be free of sales taxes, property taxes, and income taxes. The state would be paid for by opening red light districts and gambling halls.
I'm going to start my own state with blackjack and hookers.
Oh, can I come? Please?
That's literally what they're doing. Is we're going to start our own state with blackjack and hookers.
They declared that the wooden nickel would be the coin of the realm.
Nice.
News articles not only begin to appear in local papers, but large papers such as the San Francisco Chronicle begin to cover the story. A young reporter by the name of Stanton Delaplane came and visited the local people and wrote a series of stories to understand the movement from their point of view. He later went on to win the Pulitzer Prize for his writings.
So he was writing about this secessionist movement and actually won a Pulitzer for writing about the secessionist movement.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. On December 4th, this is December 4th, 1941, Wairikans held an election for the first provisional governor of the state of California. John C. Childs, a judge in Crescent City, Del Norte County, won the local election. A public rally had been planned, and it had been arranged to have several Hollywood newsreel companies and magazine photographers from Life and Time magazine came to cover it. The local newspapers asked that the locals to dress as cowboys to really ham it up for the cameras by toting pistols and rifles as they handed out leaflets again on Highway 99. All the kids of Wairika were given the day off of school, including the drum and bugle corps, to join in the parade that would lead the courthouse lawn for Judge Child's inauguration. Let's see. It was quite a scene as the cameramen and reporters directed, quote unquote, directed the crowds at the parade and the inauguration. The governor's speech stated that the changes were long overdue. 50 years ago, the roads were not passable in the area, and they were still not. Ralph Collier introduced the new state officers who represented each of the 4 participating counties. The governor, chief justice, attorney general, secretary of the Chamber of Commerce, chaplain, and the U.S. congressmen were divided between Siskiyou, Trinity, Del Norte, and Curry counties. A good time was had by all, including the new governor, who celebrated so much that he was described as, quote, indisposed the next day.
Too much celebrating. That happens.
Yes, the newly elected officials met on December 6th to organize and get moving. And then December 7, 1941, dawned with a surprise of the attack on Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and the beginning of World War II. The dream of the 49th state had died. Judge Child's last act of chief executive was to state, quote, in the view of the national emergency, the acting officers of the provisional territory of Jefferson here and now discontinue any and all activities. The state of Jefferson was originated for the sole purpose of calling attention to the poor, to proper authorities, the fact that we have immense deposits of strategic and necessary defense materials or minerals, and that we need roads to develop them. We have accomplished that purpose, and henceforth all our efforts will be directed toward assisting the United States and federal government in defense of our country. Although always thwarted, the movement has received periodically since 1941 and still live in the hearts of many people today. There are many businesses that openly carry the name of Jefferson, Northern California, and Southern Oregon. You can still see signs that say State of Jefferson on them. The State of Jefferson's official money is a $2 bill because it has Thomas Jefferson on it.
Of course.
So this is the important part. The State of Jefferson relates to the theme of revolution, reaction, and reform in history because, in a way, it was likely the last revolution in America. Because of the feeling of isolation from the government and the lack of representation that the people shared, they decided that Southern Oregon and Northern California were going to secede from the Union and form the 49th state in America. What could be more revolutionary than a group of people wanting to form their own state? Just like once we succeeded from England and formed our own country because Americans felt like they were not being represented fairly. So, but in a lot of ways, the idea was thought as a joke to get attention for their situation, but this was also very serious to many others who really believed in the idea then and now. The activists did get a huge reaction, and today many people still talk about the concerns of rural areas of Northern California and Southern Oregon are not addressed by the state governments. Yes, that is still a huge issue here, and you can see it in the the Newsom recall, if you look at the map of the Newsom recall, everything north of Sacramento voted to recall him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they couldn't manipulate the polls.
Yes.
But because again, Humboldt County, can you imagine trying to manipulate the polls in Humboldt and shut down the voices of the people there? Oh, that's gonna work out well.
Obviously, the concerns in Southern Oregon, Northern California are not the same as the big cities like Los Angeles, California, and Portland, Oregon. So, yes.
Well, and that's that's the age-old problem of the United States, right? I mean, and not even just the United States, but like many countries where the rural areas that have entirely different cultures, entirely different needs and concerns are ignored largely by the people in capitals that are cities, and they just blow them off. They don't care. And even when you send somebody who claims to be representative of you there, you can't change the system from the inside because it just corrupts you when you get there, and you just wind up living in the lap of luxury.
Well, yeah, like the one of the big issues here in California is that there's no political power in the north, right? It's largely conservative. There's a few places like on the coast that are even libertarian-ish, but it's largely conservative to the north of Sacramento. But the population density is so low that they have no political power. Right? The voting districts are so large that they're vastly outnumbered by the tightly packed and huge population density that comes with like Southern California, Sacramento, the San Francisco Bay Area where I live. This is where all the state Congress comes from, is here in the LA area, because that's where all the population is. Yeah, I mean, that's where the concerns of the state lie, is with those areas, because that's where the people that represent the state are from.
Yeah, I mean, that's and it's one of those things where the the perpetual issue of democracy comes up, where it's just tyranny of the minority. That there's a bunch of people there, they have valid concerns, but they're rendered invalid because there's not enough of them.
They don't care about Northern California until it's on fire, and then they can use that to push their woke agendas.
Yeah, then they're like, "Oh, see, it's climate change." No, it's your mismanagement. What it is.
Fuck your spotted owl. I'm just saying, fuck your spotted owl.
Yeah, I mean, there's a place in Wisconsin like that where they were gonna do like a big development and whatever and build stuff, and it was gonna help people in the area, and because there's like, they found a single like endangered frog or something near there, no one can build on it.
Yeah,
it's because now it's all protected. It's one damn frog. That could have been the only one in the area.
It's not only is it one damn frog, but it's like it's a frog that nobody cared about until this point in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no one gave a shit, and then all of a sudden, oh well, like that episode of Family Guy where Peter has that endangered bird make a nest in his beard, so he's not allowed to wash his beard or anything or remove the bird because it's endangered.
Yeah. So do you want to get on to some of these notes?
Yeah, sure.
Because we actually have notes, and I gave you a copy of the notes.
Yeah.
These are a few that I found that are like super recent, like in the last 10 years. Secessionist movement, or not secessionist, state partition. Yeah. So these are Liberty. Liberty would consist of Washington from the Cascades east. Right. This was a big push by Matt Shea, and there's a few other people, but it was according to the website, the state of Liberty is a proposed U.S. state to be formed out of the eastern Washington. Enabling legislation was introduced in the state of Washington State House of Representatives January 2019. It was proposed by Washington State Representative Matt Shea as House memorials in 2015-2017, and was the subject of the Douglas County Republicans' Lincoln Day dinner. keynote speech in May 2018 at the convention center there. So this Eastern Washington has the same problem that the state of Jefferson did, is that they don't feel represented by the large urban population that is the Seattle, Tacoma, Olympia area.
Well, yeah, and you can see that if you're ever there, you can see it in dramatic fashion. Where if you go from Seattle or you go from Portland and you go east, all of a sudden it's a different world. It's an entirely different world.
Tacoma has open socialists on the city council.
That doesn't surprise me.
The potato farmers in Spokane are not okay with that. Let's just leave it at that. No.
Yeah, that talk about a difference there.
Yes.
And that's the thing too, is I love that idea, because the people in Seattle, and it's the same thing with with the secessionist or partitionist movement in Oregon. The reality is that those cities will never let go of that area, because that's the area that actually produces things. That's the part that actually makes things and actually has an economy based on producing real things. Whereas Portland, Seattle, that area, they don't make anything. They don't know how to survive on their own. There are people there who unironically tweet things about how, well, you don't need to go hunting. There's supermarkets now.
Yeah.
Like, this is
yes. Yeah, we're not going to get to that one. There's yes. Northern Colorado 2013.
I hadn't heard of this one until now. This was a new one for me.
Really?
Yeah, I hadn't heard of the Northern Colorado movement.
Weld, Morgan, Logan, Sedgwick, Phillips, Washington, Yuma, Kit Carson, Cheyenne, and Wallace counties. Cheyenne and Wallace, they were initially invited to join Northern Colorado, but they instead sought petitions to join Kansas instead of Colorado. So they in the 2018, Weld, Morgan, Logan, Sedgwick, Phillips, Washington, Yuma, and Kit Carson again had petitions to try and join the state of Wyoming.
Yeah, because look at Denver. Look at how hard left Denver has turned.
Yes,
and it's become. There used to be a TV show on that was about the company called Gunsmoke that was in Denver.
Yep.
There's a really good firearms, like gunsmith and firearms company. Their replicas of old Winchester lever actions and Henrys are absolutely superb. They're hand done. They're so good. They're made with the original, based off of real original blueprints, and they're fantastic. And they were this really popular gun company that has now had to close their doors because of the hard left changes in anti-gun stances in Denver.
Yep.
And it's changed Colorado entirely.
Yeah. 2013, Weld County Commissioner Sean Conway. He said, quote, "I think people, when they feel disenfranchised, when they feel that their voices are not being heard, I think that's a problem in a representative form of government." So again, there's that underlying thing again. Voices aren't being heard. Underrepresented, not feeling like your voice matters, not feeling represented by the people that are, elected to represent you.
There's only so long that people will be content simply screaming into the void in futility until they decide that they don't want futility, they want change.
Yes. The state of Appalachia. It is the western half of Virginia, a little part of Kentucky, Tennessee. It's by the state of Appalachia.com. That is they're on Twitter, Instagram. They have a Telegram page now. This is an active, ongoing thing. It's a cool move. These are cool guys too. These are really cool guys, and they have a lot of this thought out. You can hear they have a really great discussion with liberty-minded medics about this. They do a great interview and a great breakdown of things. But according to their website, quote, every year, Virginians are increasingly subjected to the voting power of the enclaves around Northern Virginia, Richmond, and Virginia Beach. Urban sprawl has created vast voting blocks that more often than not allow inner city candidates who do not understand life in Appalachia to govern us. The ideas of Appalachia and the Golden Crescent are different and neither appreciated, being forced to accept or others in their lives. Big cities cannot and should not dictate how Appalachians live. Again, not being heard, not being represented.
Well, and the Appalachians, I mean, the people of the Appalachians, from the top to the bottom of it, all of the states that the Appalachians run through, the people who live in those mountains are constantly experiencing that and have forever experienced that. I mean, from even before the founding of the United States, through the founding of the United States, immediately after the founding of the United States, they've never been listened to about what they're concerned about and about what they care about, ever. So why would they want anything to do with the people? I mean, in Virginia is an especially terrible place because directly across the Potomac sits Washington, D.C.
Yes.
So,
which is a big no bueno.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those things, that like if you're in Appalachia, and I've lived in Appalachia, I mean, not in Virginia, it's so far south, more south in North Carolina, and Georgia. But when I was in those mountains, like the world there versus the world in any of the coastal cities is so different, or Atlanta is so different. Your entire world is so dramatically different from the people who live in those cities. They can't even comprehend what you're concerned about. They have no baseline to go off of. So even if they wanted, and they don't, but even if they legitimately wanted to represent you, they have no idea how to.
Greater Idaho. This is actually one from this year. The Greater Idaho movement was for several states in Oregon, going all the way to the coast. It was the southernmost states in Oregon and a few on the eastern part of Oregon to join Idaho. And this is greateridaho.org. You can look that up to read that. Mike McCarter, he's the president of Citizens for Greater Idaho. He said in an interview with Oregon, I think it's Oregon Public Radio. I don't know. I have the link somewhere. But he said, in a way, some of the people look down on the rural people as farmers and ranchers, and they work too hard and stuff like that. McCarter, president of Greater Idaho group, hoping to create a conservative megastate in terms of land mass that he jokes would give currently landlocked Idaho beachfront property. About 800,000 people live in the 19 counties included in the Greater Idaho Plan, less than the population of Mottola County. That's the county that includes Portland. As part of the pitch freedom between the states, he says, quote, it's a value movement of faith, family, freedom, independence, but it has a tendency to follow along political lines. Again, not being represented, not being heard.
Yeah. And so if you feel like you have absolutely no power, like no one is going to listen to you, no one cares. It doesn't matter how loud you scream. It doesn't matter what you try to do. No one's listening. You want to just leave that union. You don't want to be part of that.
You want to feel like your voice matters, like you're represented, like your values matter to the people that are elected over you.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's what led to the American Revolution. Was no one wanted to listen, no one cared.
So, which brings us to mine and Andrew's favorite, the American Redoubt.
The fucking Redoubt.
Yes, if I had the money, it's where I'd move tomorrow.
American Redoubt. I'm aiming right now.
Yeah.
Redoubt.
American Redoubt is Montana, Wyoming, Idaho. It is the eastern Oregon and Washington. So it's the eastern parts of Oregon and Washington, eastern side of the Cascades. This is not a secessionist movement or really a separation movement. it's a regional thing, kind of like Cascadia. It's like a bioregion, right? But this was originally started in 2011 in a blog post by John Wesley Rawls on survivalblog.com. John Wesley Rawls wrote the Patriots series, dystopian fantasy novels. Really good. Like Patriots is really good, and then the other two Aftermath are just kind of whitewashed versions of the same thing. But Walls is a former Army officer. He's a creative editor of survivalblog.com. So it's not so much a political secession movement, but more of a political escapism movement. It's similar in that way to like the Free State Project, but it has more like a revolutions-ish undertones to it, which I think appeal a lot to us. But
yeah, it's much more unlike the Free State Project, which seeks to gradually make people more free and work, within the political system. The idea of the Redoubt is much more a fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, and you try and make me.
Yes, it's not like the Free State Project is the idea that I think it was like 20,000 libertarians moved to New Hampshire, and then through the political process make New Hampshire more free, and then eventually it was a secessionist movement. The American Redoubt is not a secession movement, but it very much is a political escapism movement. It's for people. It's basically like the promised land, like the grass is greener on the other side. It's the greener grass for people that don't feel represented, don't feel like their voices are heard, like people that live in Greater Idaho or the Jefferson area or Northern Colorado. Mm-hmm. So let's see, where was I? Kim Murphy, she's a reporter for the Los Angeles Times. She summed up the motivation for the movement as, quote, "For a growing number of people, it's a designated point of retreat when the American economy hits the fan. When banks fail, the government declares martial law, the grid goes down, there will be a veritable vacuum of law enforcement. In such times, with few exceptions, it will only be God-fearing people that continue to be law-abiding. Choose your neighborhood wisely."
Yeah, and the Redoubt, actually, specifically in Idaho, is actually where a place called the Citadel has been built.
Yes.
The Citadel is a concrete-based fortified town. You can buy in either gold or crypto
it's a fort.
Currency. Yeah, you can buy it. Well, it harkens back to the idea of the medieval idea of a fortified town, that you might be attacked and you want to live in a town, but you need to protect that town. So it's this great big wall, and there's watchtowers, and by buying a property there, you have to, it's like an HOA kind of thing, but you submit to mutual defense. Basically, you participate in mutual defense of the area. All of the houses within it are actually just these super thick steel reinforced concrete shells, and then you build essentially what looks like a house kind of around that, and then because it's a dome, you have the freedom on the interior to build it however you want to and make it whatever. And so then, and it's all the streets are aligned so that you have good line of sight and defense fallback locations, and it's all been figured out to be a fortified town that could be assaulted and resist that assault and do it well.
Yeah.
And that's in the Redoubt area. Like, this is the kind of thing that happens there.
The mentality, yeah. John Wesley Walls, quoted in his St. Louis Dispatch, said, quote, "It's time to distance ourselves from the vile corruptness that we see inside the Washington, D.C. Beltway." That's, again, not represented. That's the ongoing theme of this episode, is that a secessionist and a separatist and partitionist movement, it's all about not being represented by the people that you are supposed to represent you, by the, quote, representative government. It's people seeking to be heard.
Yeah, it's the entire idea of balkanization of the United States. The entire idea of that is the Washington, D.C. does not and really cannot possibly represent everybody effectively. And, this grand experiment, as it was called near its founding and stuff, has failed. It doesn't work. And you can't possibly do this. This was too much. And so as a result, you just cut it up. You tear it into pieces. You tear it into pieces that are more representative of the economies and the populations and the values that they hold and things, and you recreate that. And that's a step to, continue to further until you get down to the idea of individual secession, which is the goal.
So has this ever worked? Since the founding of the Union, it's only worked 3 times. Kentucky in 1792, they were part of Virginia, so they separated from Virginia. Maine in 1820, they were originally part of Massachusetts. And then West Virginia in 1863, they were originally part of Virginia.
Well, and West Virginia had a little help.
Yeah. So.
Well, West Virginia had a lot of help. Let's be honest.
But there's
federal army assistant.
Yeah, there's a lot of ones. Like there was one to southern Arizona was going to be its own one. Like I said, northern Colorado. The Florida has their own. Georgia has their own. Idaho's had a few, which is fantastic.
Idaho is a
Illinois.
Is a really
There was one for Southern Illinois to secede from Illinois and create their own.
Oh man, if you ever drive,
been several of those. Yeah,
if you ever drive from Northern Illinois into Southern Illinois, the fact that you're still in the same state feels wrong. Because you have in Southern Illinois, you have Southern accents, you have very Southern attitudes. It's very Southern weather and vegetation.
The culture is different.
Everything feels like the American South, but it's somehow the same state as Chicago.
Yeah. 1992, there was one to separate Kansas into West Kansas. Let's see. Maine, there was a separatist movement in Maine in 98 and again in 2005. Acadia is what they were going to call it.
Actually, that name makes a lot of sense because there was a region called Acadia that's actually up that direction. It was in Canada, but that's actually why the Cajuns in Louisiana are called Cajuns, because they were Acadians that were French that got kicked out by the British and headed on down there, which is why Cajun is a mixture of Spanish and French and Native.
1998, state legislator Richard F. Colburn proposed to the Maryland General Assembly that a referendum be held to allow 9 counties representing the Eastern Shore to secede from the state. They would invite counties from Delaware and Virginia to form the state of Delmarva.
I really wish people would work on naming these places. I mean, I would rather see the state of Bob than it's weird. We're going to make it Delmarva.
Yeah. February 2014, there was a Western Maryland secessionist movement. Again, there's a Massachusetts one to join Maine. Michigan has had their own against the Superior. The Upper Peninsula wanted to separate.
Yeah, you know what? Eventually, we Wisconsinites in the Great Hootenanny, we will take back what is rightfully ours in the Upper Peninsula.
Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana has had a couple of them. Let's see, Nebraska, Nevada has had their own, and they wanted to remove Clark County from Nevada, right? Clark County is where Las Vegas is. They wanted to remove Las Vegas from Nevada, and
I can see wanting to do that. Yeah.
New Hampshire, of course, New Jersey, New York, the northern half of New York, separating and basically like outside, like cut off New York City, and then the rest of New York would be Albany. That's been proposed a few times. North Carolina, Oregon, again, separation of Oregon, move Oregon's border, state of Jefferson. Pennsylvania has had, because Pennsylvania has the same issue that Oregon, California, Washington have. They're not represented by the larger. The Dakotas, Ambrosia, that was a territory inspired by opposition to the New Deal politics, in which parts of South Dakota were proposed to separate and create their own state called Ambrosia. Yeah, of course, as the Texas, that one's popular. Utah, there was a push by Mormons to leave Utah and create the state of Desert. That's right. Or Deseret. Deseret. Deseret.
It's fancy.
2002, there's also a push to allow Wendover County to leave the state of Utah and join Nevada. Vermont, I already said Vermont, Virginia, Washington. There's a couple for Washington. Wisconsin.
We have at least 2 that I know of.
Let's see, Winnacone. So there's a sitting in protest over the village's omission from the state's official highway map. They were to form this sovereign state of Winnacone.
It's Winnecone.
Yeah.
Winnacone.
And portions of the northern counties were included in proposal for the state of Superior.
Yep, that was a proposal for the Upper Peninsula, a bunch of the northern counties of Wisconsin, and then a bunch of the northern counties over on the Mitten of Michigan to form their own state, basically because fuck Madison and fuck Detroit. Certainly fuck Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do our own thing. And I mean, if you go up there, if you go up to the extreme northern part of the United States, pretty much anywhere, but especially there, everything there is different than anywhere else in the United States. It's much closer to Canadian wilderness. I mean, like where I go camping is up there, Mercer, Minocqua, Wisconsin. That's right there. And that is like you have moose and elk and wolves, and like it's completely different than if you head south in Wisconsin, where the biggest predator you got to worry about is coyote
or people.
Or people. So it's like it's Wisconsin, so we have a couple of issues with predators. But like it's a completely, that whole area there is like this really unique biome. It's the way people live there is very much still, I'm in the extreme northern woods. It's still kind of lumberjack territory, and like it's very different than everywhere else, yet it's still subjected to being attached to places like Detroit and Milwaukee, and
attached and controlled.
Yeah, and like those are the places that control it. Yeah, those are the places that control. I mean, like the Milwaukee area and Madison, which is our capital, controls politics in Wisconsin. In Michigan, it's Ann Arbor, which is the capital. There's Detroit and the greater Detroit area that control the politics. The rest of the areas, pretty much across the entire state in both cases, have nothing to do with their politics. We don't have the same goals. We don't have the same desires. We don't live the same nothing, but we're still hitched to that wagon that's going places we don't want it to go.
There's also the last one that list is Wyoming. There was a push for the northeast states or northeast counties of Wyoming to join the Dakotas in the formation of Ambrosia.
I actually, I got to say that South Dakota can be incredibly boring. So can North Dakota. But I love the Dakotas politics pretty consistently. Like it's just constantly like, hey, fuck you. No.
What's that? Kristi Noem?
Yeah.
She's growing on me. I'm not a huge fan, but she's growing on me.
Yeah, the Dakotas and Montana, like almost immediately with the mandate, just immediately were the ones who were like,
nope. Montana's another one. Montana is so large geographically. People don't understand how large Montana is.
Until you try to drive across it, and then you figure it out.
It is one of those states that you could drive for 8 hours and still be in the same fucking state. But like,
well, I mean, you do that in a lot of states actually, but
if you drive in circles.
No, you can. Wisconsin, from the very southern end of Wisconsin to the very northern end of Wisconsin, is about 8 hours.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of the state, and it's 6 hours to Disneyland.
Man.
So that tells you right there. But
but I mean, it's the same thing as like Illinois, though. Like where if you drive down the length, north to south of Illinois, you cannot believe you're in the same. Like seriously, still?
Yeah.
Really? Are you kidding me? And yeah. If you drive east-west in Montana, you're going and going and going and going. And going. Like, where does this state end? There's got to be a point where it ends, right? Like, I'm pretty sure this is Twilight Zone. Like, the end is just the beginning again. I'm trapped here.
There was one. I watched a video who was it? It was some guy from Oregon. I can't remember the guy's name right off my bat, but he was a trucker and he was doing his first trip through Montana. And he didn't record the whole thing, but he did like an after action report. And he said that the only thing that really told him that he was making progress while he was driving is passing dead deer.
That's a different one. I know for sure I'm going somewhere because that's a different one.
Passing dead animals on the side of the road let him know that he was like actually moving.
Yeah, because it's
eastern Montana.
Wasn't it Montana? Was it Montana or Missouri? I don't remember. One of those states that for a long time had that section of highway that they had ignored the federal highway speed limit mandate, and it had just had no speed limit. I don't remember if it was Missouri or Montana.
Montana, yeah.
Yeah, where you could just do whatever because it's like, it's 4 lanes wide, it's completely flat, it's completely straight for 37 miles. Who the hell cares how fast you're going? If you hit something, you are a moron. So,
and it's flat. It's flat and straight. Like literally, take a nap. Take a nap.
Yeah, if you had one of those the Teslas with the autopilot thing or whatever, you could just fall asleep and it wouldn't make a difference because the car doesn't even have to do anything. It's just got to stay straight and just keep going, and it's eventually you're gonna get there. The same thing with Kansas is a lot like that. Nebraska,
Eastern.
I mean those.
Western Texas.
Yeah, oh god, Texas can get so boring to drive through. Oh look, it's more desert. Yay!
You're like oil rig, oil rig, oil rig,
yeah.
oil rig,
refinery, oil rig, refinery, oil rig. Yeah, well, Texas and Louisiana also has the world's longest bridge, and I've driven that, and good God, that sucks so bad. It's so long. There are emergency call phones every few miles.
It's like the one from upper to the peninsula in Michigan. Like that bridge is so long that people are afraid to drive it because they can't see the other side. And like they have people that like will hang out at the beginning of the bridge and drive people's cars over for them.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that for sure. At least it's not
that kind of tells you all that you really need to know about society right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and in contrast, there's, in what would have been the state of Superior, there's Madeline Island, which when the lake freezes, they build a road across the lake, and they actually use all of the discarded Christmas trees to market the sides of it. And so you can drive it, and it's great to visit it in the summer because when you go, the road just dips into the water, and then when you go down the ferry across the other side, you can see where the road just kind of comes up out of the water.
We throw Christmas trees in the lake here to create artificial reef.
Yeah, we tend to burn them around here because you let them get dry enough and just set them standing up on a bonfire. That's cool.
So, all right, let's get on to this article, and then we'll get on to the reasons. You want to read through the article?
Which one are we doing? The New Hampshire?
Yeah, Center Square. Lawmakers want New Hampshire to declare independence.
All right. Let's see. Yeah, they stupid pop. Stop it. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
A New Hampshire lawmaker is pushing for a referendum asking the state's voters if they want to secede from the United States.
Please say yes. Please say yes.
Yeah, please do. State Rep Mike Sylvia, a Belmont Republican, said he has filed a proposal. These pop-ups on these websites. He has filed a proposed constitutional amendment that would ask voters in the 2022 midterm elections to break ties with Washington, D.C. and become a separate nation state. In an interview, Sylvia said he filed the measure in response to the federal government's actions to prevent the spread of the coronavirus, including the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's eviction ban, and more recently, President Joe Biden's mandate requiring federal workers to get vaccinated. So it's not just federal workers. But anyway, there are hundreds of examples of the federal government overstepping its authority, he told the Center Square. Enough is enough. We should put this before the voters to decide.
Again,
he said,
overreach. Again, overreach. Not represented. Your values aren't being taken into account.
Yeah, nobody's listening to us. They don't care. They're going to do what they want no matter what we say. So let's leave. He said, while secession would likely mean a loss of federal funding, yeah, and other support from Washington, there would also be benefits for New Hampshire's residents, such as not having to pay federal income tax. And New Hampshire has no state income tax.
That's on the list of the article. We'll get to that. Yeah.
We are a donor state that pays out more in federal income taxes than we get back, Sylvia said. If cleared for the ballot, the referendum would read, quote, New Hampshire peaceably declares independence from the United States and immediately proceeds as a sovereign nation. All other references to the United States in this constitution, state statutes, and regulations are nullified. The long shot proposal, which was filed with the Office of Legislative Services, would need to be considered in the next legislative session that gets underway in January. To make it to the ballot, the measure would need to be approved by a 60% vote in the GOP-controlled House and Senate before it could be put before voters in the 2022 elections. Under state law, it would not require approval from Republican Governor Chris Sununu. Really?
Sununu, yes. Free Talk Live, they refer to him as Emperor Sununu.
Yes.
Because he likes to make edicts.
Emperor Snoo. Okay. That's why I'm like Snoo. Really, Snoo. That's actually. The move is backed by a conservative group called Liberty Block, which says New Hampshire voters haven't had the chance to, quote, reevaluate their relationship with the federal government in hundreds of years. Their ancestors made the decision to join the Union 240 years ago, in a different world, one in which the federal government did not violate our every right and did not steal half of our money to fund their tyranny, the group posted. It's accurate.
Mm-hmm.
The group published a list of more than 70 reasons that New Hampshire should secede from the Union, ranging from federal anti-gun laws to corona fascism. I like that term. I'm using it now. And violations of civil rights by federal agencies, and suggested that the Granite State was well positioned to go it alone. Quote, New Hampshire citizens are the hardest workers and earn the most money, which is demonstrated by our continent-leading median household income, the group posted. We don't need DC politicians to be wealthy. Sylvia recently came under criticism over comments he made on social media suggesting the pro-secessionists use stereotypes about illegal immigrants to further their cause. That drew a sharp rebuke from House Speaker Sherman Packard, a Republican from Londonderry, who called the comments shameful. I mean, I agree, but he's talking propaganda in that tweet.
Well, the Founding Fathers were really good at propaganda.
Yeah, they were. I mean, Thomas Paine's common sense is... I agree with it, but it is still propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
Secession is not something House Republican leadership is even remotely involved with, nor do we condone racial stereotyping of any kind, Packard said.
As if secession is racist. He has to throw racism in there in order to, like, it's the boogeyman, right? It's yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean in modern political speech in the United States, the idea of racism and racial stereotyping is this great jabberwocky that everybody points at and goes, oh, God, oh, but what about that? As soon as you say anything that's against the establishment, but racism.
Never mind the fact that it takes no courage to be against racism.
Yeah, that's literally...
You're not a hero.
Yeah.
You're just against racism.
That's okay. Society. Congratulations.
Being against racism is a commonly accepted practice in the United States. You should understand that.
That's like being against slavery in the United States at this point. Like, oh boy, you're so brave for opposing the Fugitive Slave Act. Well, yeah, that everybody does.
Duh. Like, here's your cookie. Congrats.
Yeah, but they have to throw that. I mean, his tweet was basically saying, like, maybe we can use that to convince more people to support it.
It's a dog whistle.
Yeah. That's all he's trying to get at. His goal is secession, and if we can maybe use some sort of propaganda and some sort of fear porn to get everybody, because clearly fear porn's working. He's looking. I mean, the whole reason they're doing it is over the coronavirus thing. Fear porn works.
Yeah.
Last year, Silvio was one of 7 lawmakers who signed a statement calling Snoo a tyrant and declaring that New Hampshire's government was illegitimate. New Hampshire Democratic Party Chairman Ray Buckley shrugged off Silvio's secession proposal as batcrap crazy in a post on social media. Come on, you're going to call it batshit crazy, but you can't even bring yourself to say the word shit.
Oh.
You're say batshit crazy. Say batshit crazy. Come on. That's some balls.
Have the cojones to stand behind your opinion.
Yeah, at least just go all in. You know, it's like when these politicians make these statements where the first statement they make is bold and they mean it, and like that's clearly what they meant. They said what they meant and they meant what they said. And then because of backlash, like, oh well, actually what I meant was to say no, stand behind it. Stand behind what you said. Back it up.
Have a fucking spine. Have a spine.
It's ridiculous. There was a time when leading up to the American Civil War, if you read some of what was said in Congress, like, oh my like and they would openly call Abraham Lincoln like Lord Emperor Abraham Africanus and stuff, and just like they were nasty to each other. There's a reason why like the Sumner beating and things happened, because people got pissed.
Politicians used to duel each other, you guys.
Yeah, they totally did.
You know, Aaron Burr, Alexander Hamilton. It happens. It happened.
Well, yeah, and like I said, the Sumner beating, when you know that you have said things about my nephew, sir, and then he just starts beating him with his cane. You know, these are things that politicians used to do. They used to get so worked up and stand so hard for what they believed in. And now you can't even say batshit crazy.
Yeah.
New Hampshire isn't the only state where lawmakers have proposed secession. In California, Texas, and Utah, lawmakers have proposed similar measures in recent years, seeking to sever ties with the federal government. None have gained much traction. Many scholars have questioned the legality of states to secede from Washington, D.C., however, pointing out that rulings by the U.S. Supreme Court dating back to the Civil War have deemed it to be unconstitutional.
The Constitution says that you can't leave.
Yep, nope, you can't leave. Well, I'm pretty sure it doesn't say anything of the sort.
The Constitution says you can't leave, therefore you have to stay and submit to our tyranny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's not how secession works.
Yeah, it's like, no, I don't care about your Constitution. I don't care what you have to say. I'm leaving. I'm leaving.
Not only do I not care about your Constitution, you obviously don't care about your Constitution either.
Yeah, they don't give a shit. And if they did, they wouldn't be seceding. Yeah. And if you did, I wouldn't be seceding.
Because you don't give a shit either.
Isn't it interesting that you only care about the Constitution when it doesn't serve your purposes?
Yes.
It's just, yeah, that shit.
I'm a fan. I'm rooting for it. You know, NH exit. Hashtag. I'm a fan.
Yeah. New Hampshire.
New Hexit.
New Hexit. New Hexit. New Hampshire. New Hampshire. I don't know what we're.
Yeah, you gotta get
fancy.
New Hampshire.
Yeah.
So, okay, this is an article from LibertyBlock.com. We're not doing these 70. This is from 2019. This is 12. It's not the 70 reasons why they should leave. I don't know how they got the list down to 70. But this is 12 benefits of New Hampshire independence. And it's not just New Hampshire. This applies to any of these that are separating. Like if Jefferson happened, Like the taxes and Jefferson would just be so much better. Like, of course, there'd still be taxes, in today's age, but the amount of taxes, the amount I would have to pay, I pay 10.25% sales tax right now.
Jesus. That is
just think about that for a second.
Almost double what we do here.
Yeah. Well, you don't live in California, in San Francisco Bay Area.
That's correct. Although there are counties in Wisconsin that are like designated like tourist counties, like around the Dells, that Madison. Have like north of Madison, the Wisconsin Dells in particular, because it's the Las Vegas of the Midwest. They have inexplicably an 8% sales tax, whereas everywhere else has a 5.5. Just because it's so tourist intensive, that's their way of bringing in more revenue to the state from people from outside the state.
Yeah. So this is 12 benefits of New Hampshire independence. It says, if New Hampshire were to leave the Union and no longer be one of the divided states of America, would the state be better off? Would it even survive? After all, it receives millions of dollars each year from the federal government. The state only has 1.3 million people. There's no way we could survive on our own. Even if it did, would its citizens' quality of life improve if the U.S. government was no longer in their lives? Number one, no more federal taxes. Currently, the state of New Hampshire has no general income or sales tax. The average property tax for a home is around $5,000 in New Hampshire. In addition to property taxes, the average worker might pay roughly $1,000 in sales tax each year on food and other small expenditures. Comparatively, the average New Hampshire worker may have around $15,000 stolen from them each year by the federal government via income taxes. Federal gas tax, federal payroll taxes, and all other federal taxes could push the figure well above $30,000 or $40,000 annually. If New Hampshire left the Union, workers could expect to save $15,000 to $40,000 per year right off the bat. What could you do with that kind of money each year? Help your aging parents, upgrade your home or car, buy those firearms and ammo and accessories you've been longing for. Take your loved ones on a vacation.
Yeah, you could buy those firearms and ammo and accessories if anybody had any in stock.
Yes, you want to read the second one?
Sure. Speaking of which, no more gun laws. My favorite.
Yes.
Considering New Hampshire has no restrictions on firearms, accessories, or ammunition, yes, it's almost as if anarchy isn't as dangerous as your public school teacher made it out to be. All of the many gun laws.
That line is actually in the article. That's not just hyperbole. Andrew said it's in the article.
Yeah, that is in the article. All of the many gun laws that Granite Staters are forced to obey only come from D.C. Once New Hampshire secedes, all of those unconstitutional, illegal, immoral, ineffective, anti-freedom laws disappear. Get ready to enjoy fully automatic guns, suppressors, SBRs, and anything else you can imagine, and forget about ever needing to fill out NICS forms, tax stamps, or any other type of permission slip from politicians before obtaining firearms. Imagine you could shoulder a brace and sell a short shotgun without worrying about the ATF killing you or your dog.
I am fully erect right now.
Yeah, like, stop.
I just want to put that out there.
My penis can only get so erect.
Number 3, no more federally funded police state. One of the many ways that politicians and, quote, law enforcement officials in New Hampshire terrorize, control, extort, and abuse is by utilizing federal grants to obtain tools that make tyranny much more effective. Among such tools are Bearcats and other military vehicles that police in New Hampshire have been given by the U.S. government. The U.S. government also gives money to law enforcement agencies in New Hampshire and many other states for the express purpose of establishing suspicionless sobriety checkpoints. Most recently, the Portsmouth police were given 7 new drones by the federal government. Remaining in the socialist authoritarian state of America also allows federal agents to establish immigration checkpoints anywhere they desire in New Hampshire whenever they want to. As with sobriety checkpoints, the suspicionless searches violate natural rights to freedom and privacy and violate the U.S. and New Hampshire constitutional protections of those rights. These illegal checkpoints would all go away once we leave the Union. While police in New Hampshire should do the right thing and refuse the federal read taxpayer money, wouldn't you love to see that temptation be removed?
You know what's funny is I've read a lot about sobriety checkpoints in other states.
Mm-hmm.
That is definitely not something we do in Wisconsin.
They used to do them here, but then there was a law published that says that they have to, or there was a law passed that says that they have to publish when they're going to do checkpoints. It's like 5 days in advance or 7 days in advance. There's a little blurb in the newspaper that says there will be a DUI checkpoint on this road at this time on this day, and it's like drive around it.
Yeah, so everyone knows where it is and can get around. Yeah, I mean the thing is one, with his rules, Wisconsin is good luck setting them up. But two, no, that's a terrible idea. Are you kidding me? You know how many judges and cops and politicians they would just keep catching because it's Wisconsin. We're all drunk all the time.
Yeah.
do you know how cheap liquor is here? Are you kidding me? Like, you can literally fly from New York City to Wisconsin, go drinking, get a hotel room for the night, get on the plane, fly back, and you still have spent less money than you would drinking for a single night in New York City.
Probably, yeah.
Like, it's so much cheaper here. So you could never, could never do that.
Oh, no, yeah, but like there's a whole bunch of things that go along with, like, you know, DUI, sobriety checkpoints, things like that. Like, if you pull up to a DUI checkpoint and you have a firearm in your car, well,
yep,
another reason to fuck with you some more. So,
oh yeah, yes. Yeah, and oh boy, and imagine getting busted for having a gun on you while you're drinking and drive. Oh, you're so fucked.
All right, want the next one?
Sure, the Federal Department of Education. Fuck them. It's only been around for what, 41 years? 41 years the Department of Education's been around?
1980s, it says.
Yeah, it's only been around for 41 years and it's already such fucking garbage. Like, Jesus. But the U.S. government extorts money from individuals and uses $70 billion each year to mandate exactly how nearly every child must be taught. That is not education, that's indoctrination.
Yes.
The Federal Department of Education is perhaps the biggest contributor to the decline in the academic success, economic success, culture, and freedom in the United States since its establishment in 1980.
Holy fuck yes. Holy, that is a holy fuck yes statement.
Yeah, a 12-year indoctrination program.
15,000 hours, 12 years, mandatory.
It is amazing how well that works to re-educate people to not have counter-revolutionary thoughts, comrade. Parents in New Hampshire are currently part of the small number of parents in the U.S. who can still legally educate their own children. They're actually, Wisconsin's one, Virginia's one. There are a few states left that you can still homeschool.
California, you can homeschool, but there is a test that your kids have to take to quote graduate.
That's lame.
Yeah.
Within the coming years, the U.S. government will make it 100% mandatory that every child attend a government-operated school. We're already seeing that constantly.
Yes.
Once that happens, do you want to be part of the U.S. or do you want to have the ability to ignore the ridiculous law that would be irrelevant to your sovereign nation?
Yes. That's a real good reason.
Yeah.
Number 5, Federal Reserve. The U.S. government currently allows the Federal Reserve to control monetary policy via complicated maneuvers, which include setting the interest rate that apply to the U.S. government and nearly all banks in the U.S. The Federal Reserve's board members are appointed by the president, but they enjoy the privilege of functioning as a, quote, non-governmental entity, which allows them to be nearly 100% unaccountable to the voters. The Federal Reserve may be the biggest reason the U.S. Is currently it says 22 trillion, but we're at like 29 now. In debt. The Federal Reserve and the U.S. government also oppose alternative/competitive currencies. Being that New Hampshire is the cryptocurrency capital of the U.S., it is inevitable that the U.S. government will begin to attack New Hampshire for allowing its people to use the currency of their choice. #Crypto6.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we know people right now in New Hampshire who are being prosecuted by the feds for giving people a choice in currency.
Yes, for using Bitcoin.
I mean,
for selling Bitcoin without a license.
Yeah, they were running an unauthorized currency exchange.
I mean, so the U.S. government's like Bitcoin is not a real currency. Oh, you can't sell it without our permission, though.
See, and that's the thing that I noticed about that is because I work in the financial industry, I have to do anti-money laundering stuff and comply with all these laws and everything else, so that the federal government doesn't shoot my dog. And I noticed that officially, Bitcoin is not recognized by the federal government as currency, as legal tender. And it is not recognized as currency or legal tender by any nation in the world.
Not Haiti. One of the ones in Central America just authorized it.
They just now did.
Yeah.
Fairly recently. I mean, it's been very
like last month.
Yeah. So after their arrest, right?
Yeah.
So what that means is that they are simultaneously saying, well, no, this is not a legal tender, and then charging them under a law that specifically says that you are required to be licensed in order to change currencies, legal tender from one form to another. So if it's not legal tender, it's not a currency, then therefore I can't possibly have done that without a license because I wasn't exchanging cash for something that is a currency.
Oh, yeah. So I'll get this next one, then you can have the one after that one because the one after that's your specialty. National ID. So this is 2019. It says within a year, New Hampshire citizens will be forced by the U.S. government to obtain a national ID card if they wish to continue to fly domestically without a passport.
That is currently enforced now.
Yes. Within a few more years, everyone in the U.S. will be forced by D.C. politicians to obtain a real ID, regardless of whether they want to use airplanes. I want to have to get one here soon for the state of California. While such a federal law might seem benign to some, nationalizing yet another significant institution would be one more large step forward for the politicians' goal, which is a singular American state.
Well, and the real ID thing is very much an beta. It is an internal passport. And what really pisses me off is my driver's license expires next year.
So is mine.
Which means I will have to go get
a
real ID. And how much you want to bet they're going to require that you have a special little card that says they poked you to get it.
Wouldn't surprise me.
At which point, well, I guess I'm just undocumented. Fuck off. Your white economy ain't the only economy, bucko.
Yep. Fuck you guys. I'm going to live in the woods with Andrew in a castle made of concrete.
Yeah. We'll go build. See, I really want to do that. I really want to win the lottery, and I want to buy a big chunk of land in Montana or Idaho, and then just build a wall around it, make a fortified town, and then just invite a bunch of anarchists to come live with me. And hey, fuck these guys. We're making our own society with blackjack and hookers. We're doing this, and then just fucking do it. And what are they going to do about it? You have 300 heavily armed, trained people in a fortified town telling you to fuck off. You really going to come at that?
Bonanza music starts playing in the background.
Yeah.
Andrew walks out in his suit. I'm here, Huckleberry.
Yeah, I'll be your Huckleberry. Say win. Yep. Daisy if you do. All right, I fucking love that.
Yeah.
All right. Number 7, perpetual foreign interventionism. Gosh, do we do that?
What? No, we don't. No, not at all.
I didn't at all spend my entire young adult life literally doing that. Millions of people, perhaps billions of people throughout the world, believe that peace and an end to perpetual war is the most important issue facing humanity. Tulsi Gabbard is the most popular candidate on the Democratic side in the U.S. Again, this is 2019. and among many Americans, largely because she loudly condemns the culture of perpetual foreign interventionism.
Until recent.
Yeah, until recently, and things changed. Well, it's funny how an intentionally botched withdrawal from Afghanistan starts to change people and the way that they say, the way they say things. Yeah. Almost like that was fucking planned.
Yes.
No. The author of this article says, I used to support the military and all it does abroad. Me too. I really did. However, I'm beginning to consider that maybe some foreign people do resent Americans because read the politicians, military has been occupying their land and abusing them for decades. Gosh, you think maybe that might breed some resentment?
There's a word for that. It's blowhard. No, not blowhard. It's blowback. Fucking blowback.
I thought that was a sex position. Anyway,
it might also. I think you're blowing out back. There's a difference there.
Oh, okay. It's a different blowback. Never heard of it. I'm a member of the United States military.
Blowback. That'd be an interesting name for a saloon in our town.
Blowback.
Blowback.
You know what you could do is you could set up like a roadhouse. I've always wanted to own a roadhouse, honestly, but I don't know, I'm weird. But set up a roadhouse and like just call it blowback, and all of the art all over the walls is just like photos of like the embassy bombing in Libya and the fall of the embassy in I want to say Tripoli, but you know what I mean.
Benghazi.
Benghazi. You just and like have all these operational blowback moments, just like photos from it, just all over the walls.
Yeah, you're getting drone bombed.
Yeah, you would. Be freaking great though. I'd do it.
No.
Let's see. If the U.S. military maintains a presence in 185 countries, there are 230 something in the world?
Something like that, yeah.
So the vast majority of the entire planet has a U.S. military presence. Maybe we've gone too far.
What?
I realize that may be shocking. You know what that sounds like, actually? That sounds like another country in history that did something kind of similar. It's something to do with tomatoes or something. They had there was a salad involved at some point, I think.
Knives. I remember knives, right?
Yeah, there was definitely knives several times.
Yeah.
A fiddle, maybe.
March. Yeah.
Yeah. But if we have been fighting the war on terror, or as I like to call it, GWAT, because I really like acronyms, against a few primitive terrorists in the Middle East for 20 years, with few signs of winning or slowing down, maybe the U.S. politicians don't really have an interest in winning.
Oh, crystal ball.
Maybe. As George Orwell famously said, the war is not meant to be won, it is meant to be continuous.
Fact.
As a sovereign nation, New Hampshire could choose to have a truly defensive military and would be free to create its own allies.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's a huge one. Think about, and that goes hand in hand with the no taxes thing, the no federal taxes to the U.S.
Well,
because that's where your taxes are going.
1885, there was a series of writings by Auburn Herbert, in which he coined the term voluntarism and a voluntarist-funded government, and that was the original basis of voluntarism. It was not a forced-funded government, but a voluntarily funded government.
Yeah, and you think about that, like, again, if you found your own town with mutual defense being agreed upon, everybody is contributing voluntarily to that mutual defense. You're not making anybody, but by living there, they are literally actively signing a contract to agree that in exchange for this defense, you're going to have to pay for it.
Yeah.
It's voluntary. You don't have to.
Mutual defense. I love the idea of mutual defense. Number 8, domestic surveillance. Between the NSA, CIA, FBI, and hundreds of other federal agencies, the U.S. government conducts massive amounts of illegal spying on innocent individuals. Over the past few years, Americans have largely realized that the government is a serious threat to our privacy. Americans have lost a ton of faith in these once respected agencies. Do you enjoy being forced to pay politicians and their agents to spy on you and other innocent civilians? If not, you should support New Hampshire secession.
What? The U.S. government doesn't spy on people. I mean, if you've done nothing wrong, you have nothing to hide, right?
Mm-hmm. Ooh, here's a long one for you.
Oh boy, civil asset forfeiture. Oh. I really should have done the domestic surveillance one too, because I also have a little bit of experience with that. But the
#DEFCON.
Yeah, well, the domestic surveillance and the and the foreign surveillance and foreign operations and the amount of stuff that actually goes on behind closed doors, the amount of business, the amount of warfare and spying and interrogation and imprisonment and everything else that goes on completely in the dark on behalf of the United States government is mind-blowing. Mm-hmm. There is an entire second world.
And it's not even always done by the United States or agents of the United States. It's a lot of it is done by foreign powers and foreign NGOs under contract or under some sort of ally policy to the United States.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the things when I was on Magnus's and the Damn Wars stream that I kind of brought up was a lot of people don't realize that the majority of agency assets are not agency trained operatives. They are civilian contractors,
PMCs, and
just random people. If they need somebody to just deliver something for them, they will literally just pay a college student who happens to be flying to that country, because who's ever going to look at him?
Yep,
he's just a random college student.
Yep, behind in plain sight.
Yeah, that happens so much you wouldn't believe it. Civil asset forfeiture. Joe Biden's favorite thing. The omnibus crime bill. While nearly everyone in the United States strongly condemns civil asset forfeiture once they learn what it is, it's funny how that's left out of your schooling, huh? That's mandated from the Department of Education. Few people know that it is a federal program. If not for the U.S. government, it would not exist. Civil asset forfeiture is the federal law which allows government agents to extrajudicially confiscate any property, money, drugs, guns, cars, houses, etc., from people who have not been convicted of any crime. A person could have his property stolen by government agents without even being charged with a crime.
Mm-hmm.
When a Texas state senator proposed a bill that would require a person to be convicted before police could steal his property, then President Trump and Sheriff Harold Evanson openly discussed whether to destroy his career. But Trump was the resistance.
Drain the swamp.
Yeah. The U.S. government justifies this blatant theft by arguing that if any type of property may be connected to a crime in the past, present, or future, law enforcement should be able to seize it as soon as possible in order to prevent the suspect from committing additional crimes with the property, or any crimes, because crime apparently is a thing.
One of the largest justifications for civil asset forfeiture is the war on drugs, which is unconstitutional and immoral.
Yep. If you have, like, for instance, if you have a hidden compartment, you construct a hidden compartment in your vehicle, right? Even if there's nothing illegal in it, the presence of that hidden compartment can allow police to confiscate your vehicle, even if they never charge you with a crime, because it could be used for drug smuggling.
Under civil asset forfeiture, right? Civil asset, as long as it is believed or could be used in the commission of a crime, the government can, under civil asset forfeiture, take said object. Here in California, the twig pigs, the fish and game, are well known for, you went fishing without a license. You have an illegal fish on your stringer. we're taking your fishing pole and the vehicle you use to get to the fishing spot.
Yep, they do that here too.
There was actually a guy. They will take people's vehicles because they caught a fish that was, a half inch under or half inch over.
Yep. Yeah. There was a guy. I actually watched it happen in person. I sat there and watched it happen. We were fishing off a dam, and there was a guy who had I think it was one too many bluegill on his stringer.
Which are bluegill or a dime a dozen. You can literally buy them in Walmart fish tank.
There's billions of them. And he had one too many bluegill on his stringer. That guy not only took the stringer of fish and then handed them out to everyone else who was there in front of him, seized his fishing pole, his entire tackle box, which if you are a fisherman, as I am, I can assure you is worth thousands and thousands.
It's like taking a range bag. Yeah.
Yeah. It's worth an enormous amount of money. And then called the local PD to pick up his pickup truck because he had fishing gear stowed in his pickup truck and therefore was connected to the crime. I watched him do that, and I'm like,
yeah, twig pigs are so bad. So fucking bad.
I mean, even if he wanted, I mean, it's still wrong, but even if he had just taken the fish from him and then distributed to everybody else and then just left it alone otherwise, that's one thing, right? That's still a dick move, but yeah. He took the man's truck because he had an extra bluegill. Let's see. The U.S. government extended permission to state and local police to participate in this program.
They state and local get a portion of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they can do it as long as they share their spoils with the feds. This is straight up fucking piracy.
Yes.
They call it equitable sharing. Cops have utilized this tyrannical law to confiscate houses on the grounds that the homeowner's teenage grandson may have once sold a bit of cannabis to a friend on the property. And police regularly use civil asset forfeiture to steal anything they desire, from drugs to guns to cars. In fact, I've seen a Dare car back when Dare was a thing. Of course, they've abandoned it because they figured out it actually increased drug usage because most people had no idea what these drugs looked like and would never have done anything with them. It was a Dare car it was a Lamborghini, and on the back window of this Lamborghini Diablo, it said, "Seized from your local drug dealer."
Yeah, that was in Florida, I want to say. Like that it's a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And it says "seized from your local drug dealer," and they use it for Dare campaigns.
Yeah. Which only makes me think, wow, if I sold drugs, I could get a Lamborghini.
Yeah, I could have a Lamborghini. That'd be fucking sweet. That's actually, 10. I mean, ironically, what the Dare program did is that, again, this is a government program that was to stop people from doing drugs. And it just educated people who would otherwise never have been exposed to these drugs and what they did on, look at the wonderful world out there of chemically altering your brain. And look at how much money you could make.
Dare, drugs are really expensive.
Yeah. I tried to say no to drugs, but they just wouldn't listen.
Yeah. IRS, as a case with federal agencies, the IRS uses power to target its political enemies. Under President Obama, the IRS unfairly targeted conservative groups. The abuse was so severe that even Obama's IRS director admitted to it. As social media technology, government surveillance, and data collection of individuals in the U.S. increase, it would seem entirely realistic that the IRS would target individuals as well as groups with unfair scrutiny and punishment. Do you want to remain in the Union when the Warren-Castro administration directs the IRS to target pro-freedom individuals like yourself? I sure as hell don't. So remember, this is a 2019 article, so Warren-Castro is not an issue. But however, in the proposal to pay for the infrastructure bill, they want the IRS, or they want IRS to direct banks to monitor any deposit in any account that has over $600, and that is supposedly to quote, stop tax cheats, because if you have $600 in your account, you're totally escaping taxes.
As we all know, only rich people deposit $600 in their account.
So,
it's, I mean, in the interest of fairness, it is only $600 that they can not tie to a paycheck being deposited. If you get direct deposit for more than 600, it doesn't count. But how many people, like, I know people, because I sell prepaid debit cards, right? Where you can just load money. And a lot of people use that to pay their bills so that the companies can't overcharge them ever. And there's tons of people that do that, where they just load the cash to pay their bills onto this card, into this bank account, and then pay it with that. And that's all it's ever in there. And it's not tied to a paycheck stub. It's just the cash that they cashed out from their paycheck that they're then putting in there. Under that law, those accounts would get monitored.
Yeah.
How is
so
that?
Much fun.
Jesus. Right. Next one, economic regulation. A thriving, prosperous economy is the most important priority to many individuals. Those who have engaged in any type of business understand that the best thing for society's economy is a lack of government restrictions.
Yes, free the markets, free the people.
If you've ever owned your own business, you completely understand. It's the reason that our economy quickly became the best in the world. It's the reason that New Hampshire's economy is infinitely better than New York's. It's the reason that Hong Kong, Singapore, New Zealand, Switzerland, Australia, Ireland, and Japan are booming, while North Korea, Cuba, and Venezuela struggle.
Yes.
Amen. President Obama utilized the mass hysteria caused by global warming propaganda to pass 4,000 new environmental laws. 4,000. The EPA is only one example of politicians using regulations to destroy economies. When constituents become too prosperous, they threaten the government due to their increasing independence, weaponry, and overall influence. Therefore, politicians often seek to worsen economies and then swoop in and save the day with yet another taxpayer-funded welfare program.
i.e. the COVID bailouts?
Yep, the bailouts. Oh, gee. You should see what those did to the economy, really. Oh, my God. Obama's damage to the U.S. economy was so severe that the number of Americans requiring food stamps, meaning the truly indigent, increased from 34 million to 44 million, a 10 million increase during just his presidency. Politicians love having an excuse to increase welfare programs. It makes them appear very generous. It also gives them a massive amount of control over you. Regulations imposed by the FDA harm the economy and our health. Like maybe approving an experimental injection that alters DNA of your cells. Run by politicians and their cronies, the FDA regularly chooses winners and losers in the health and pharmaceutical industries. Many people remain unaware that the FDA was likely the primary reason for the massive EpiPen scandal of 2016. Due to their corrupt, strict requirements, it takes an average of $2.5 billion with a B dollars and 12 years to bring a new medication to the market.
They brought the jab to the market in less than 12 months. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, even the official papers actually list the end of its experimental phase being in 2023.
Yeah.
This is not the case in other countries. No wonder companies have to charge a fortune for their medications. And we are forced to pay $4 billion every year just to fund the FDA.
Dan Berman. I don't know if you know that name. He's Dan Taxation is Theft Berman. He has a thing where he goes down to Mexico like every month and buys a bunch of insulin and EpiPens and brings them back across the border and sells them at cost, and is saving people like $12,000 a year on insulin.
Oh yeah, when my ex the mother of my twins was pregnant with a twin. She had hyperemesis. She couldn't keep anything down, no matter what. She was taking a hyperemesis medication that is normally prescribed to cancer patients. Right? I got the printout from my insurance. We had to pay $200 for a 30-day supply. And the printout said from Walgreens, it says like you saved however much with your insurance. You saved $12,000.
I believe it. I have a friend down in well, they'll just say Southern Texas because I don't want to give it away. She has rheumatoid arthritis, and the pills for that are in the U.S. like $34 a piece or something like that. I think she said, and she has to take those twice a day. She has to take the pill twice a day for rheumatoid arthritis. Like her feet get so bad that like she has a hard time getting up and walking to the bathroom from arthritis. And she's supposed to take these pills twice a day at $34. So $70 a day for medication to help her walk. Her aunt goes across the border to Mexico and buys the pills for $1.50 a piece.
Yep. Oh yeah, or well, here in Wisconsin, people go up north and they take a quick little trip over to Canada and they go buy stuff there because even in Canada, it's cheaper and easier to get this stuff. And Canada's run by a bunch of fucking socialists.
Yeah. So,
politicians since the inception of the U.S. have passed seemingly infinite amounts of restrictions, each of which makes the economy more difficult to navigate.
Yeah.
Now that politicians have illegally appointed unaccountable bureaucrats to do all the dirty work for them, thanks, Chevron, regulations are being created more than ever before. Thanks, Chevron. Depending on the estimate, federal regulations on businesses cost Americans around $2 trillion every year. Once New Hampshire separates from D.C., their economy, which is currently the best in the U.S. as of 2019, would certainly improve dramatically.
It's another damn good reason.
I mean, that whole thing, though, that demonstrates, like, when you look at numbers, oh my God.
Yeah. And then number 12 on this list is activists' time, money, and resources. While it's probably impossible to calculate exactly how much time and money New Hampshire's passionate liberty activists spend on federal issues and candidates, we are certain that it's significant. Every 2 years, pro-freedom activists in New Hampshire spending a lot of time and money on the state's 2 U.S. House races. They always come up short, but even if they were successful in electing the quote better congressional candidate, the U.S. Congress will remain largely unchanged. Even if New Hampshire could miraculously elect 2 Massies, I like how they throw that in, the U.S. would still be in control by around 430 authoritarian socialists. The same goes for the U.S. Senate races and presidential elections. Unfortunately, many activists in New Hampshire do not yet understand the multiple reasons the federal politics is a lost cause, which is a big thing in the Libertarian Party right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you think that New Hampshire's domestic politics is teeter-tottering right now between good and evil, Democrats do win roughly half of the state's elections. Imagine how much better the state would be once we formally separate from D.C. These millions of man-hours and millions of dollars wasted by great liberty activists would begin to be used only on elections that occur inside New Hampshire, like the race for governor, state house, state senate, executive council, and local races. The anti-freedom voters and politicians would begin losing so badly that they might deport themselves from New Hampshire to anti-freedom states like Massachusetts.
That's actually something that occurred to me too, is like that's what would happen. You'd have a mass exodus of people who want the big government, big authoritarianism. They'd all leave, and a mass influx of people who are like, "Oh my God, it's independent."
That's one of the things that is really big right now between California and Texas, right? Texas has a more open economy than California, right? They have lower taxes, better, less regulations and all that kind of stuff. To the point where like Texas is literally company shopping, right? They reached out to Elon and said, "Hey, Elon, check this out." They reached out to some other companies like, "Hey, look what we can do for you in Texas." Florida did the same thing and is luring 12,000 employees from Disney to Florida. Like they're building their own little town.
Yeah, under our last governor, pre-Tony the Tyrant, Walker had negotiated with Foxconn to get the first outside of China Foxconn factory built in the United States, because he was like, hey, we're going to give you all these incentives. We're going to, we're a much freer location than what you were looking at in California. We have, because that's where they were going to go, was California. Oh. And then Wisconsin was like, or you could come here, and pointed everything out and said, and on top of that, we won't even charge you taxes for the first few years.
Yep.
And so Foxconn's building this gigantic factory. It still hasn't actually materialized, but they're building this gigantic factory here in Wisconsin.
They didn't build it elsewhere.
Yeah, it's not almost built elsewhere. It's almost built in Wisconsin because of the freer economy.
That's another one of the things when we talk about balkanization. If the state's balkanized, right? If Jefferson happened, if Liberty happened, if the Redoubt became its own, Northern Colorado, all these people could literally, for lack of a better, country shop. Like, will this place over here, Ambroska really has like the freedom and the culture and the gun rights and what I love that area and the freedom that they represent and the culture that they have. I should go check it out and maybe live there. Right? Like I would rather, Ambroska, which is eastern Montana and the Dakotas, like sounds a lot better than California.
Well, and that pre-EU, that's what happened in Europe.
Yes.
You would move from one state, one country to another to find the politics and the policies and everything that you wanted. I mean, there's a reason why Switzerland wound up with just this huge influx of people in the 1980s and 90s. All the other countries started adopting all these anti-gun laws and everything else. So anybody who was super pro-gun in Europe packed up and moved to Switzerland, which still had almost the exact same gun laws at the time in 1980 as the United States did.
Yeah.
So you could just actually even more liberal ones, because in Switzerland, they don't have the once a machine gun, always a machine gun thing. So they have even more liberal laws in Switzerland at the time. And so everybody moved there. And then if that changes, you could move somewhere else. Or if something else was important to you, you could move to a different country. And you could vote with your feet. And you could just move around where you wanted to go.
Well, let's get this last paragraph. It says, any individual who lives in New Hampshire and values freedom and prosperity, or who distrusts the politicians from DC should support the notion of New Hampshire governing itself. Such a declaration would free this great state from the control of people like Trump, Clinton, Obama, Bush, McConnell, Pelosi, Schumer, and the like. Leaving the Union would also improve the quality of life for New Hampshire's residents in nearly every way. Citizens of sovereign New Hampshire would enjoy keeping thousands more dollars in their own income each year. They would enjoy defending themselves without any federal infringements upon their self-defense tools and accessories. New Hampshire would thrive once free from the trillions of dollars worth of economic regulations established by DC politicians. If you choose to be free from the corrupt central government that spends trillions on foreign interventions, forces you to pay for the massive amounts of welfare programs and unconstitutional agencies, and makes you a criminal for buying a firearm, talk to your legislator about New Hampshire independence today. So again, this article is from 2019. We covered the article. We covered the law or the bill that was submitted just last week, right? 10 days, like 7 or 8, 10 days ago. So, but I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, it would be freaking fantastic. It would be amazing to see that happen. Because New Hampshire,
it would set such a precedent.
Oh yeah, you'd start seeing a domino effect like hell. As countries just go, boop, 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 boop. You saw the last time we saw something that would be similar to that was right at the end of World War I, where in the aftermath, where the Habsburg Empire collapsed. Mm-hmm. Not that it was ever particularly well knit, but it would collapse. And then what happened is all these countries, then immediately Serbia declares its independence. And right after that, you have, Hungary's independent, and now Ukraine's independent, and Poland, and you have all these countries start going, I'm independent, I'm independent, I'm independent, I'm independent, I'm independent. And it's just this huge movement for independence across the board in what used to be an empire.
Yeah.
And it tore the empire into tiny little pieces. And I think really everyone is much better off for it. At least they were up until World War II and then the Soviets.
It's like where I live. I am governed. I am governed by people 3,000 miles away that don't understand my desires, my cultures, don't listen to my voice. Hell, I am governed by people 100 miles away that don't understand my wants, my desires, my culture, my voice.
I'm governed by. Are you kidding me? The La Crosse City Council. I'm governed by people 3 miles away that don't understand my culture or my opinion or what my choices would be and don't care. I mean, that's the idea that somebody so disconnected from you, so far away from you. Because consider the distance between the American colonies and London.
Yeah.
Or King George was, right, at the time of the American Revolution. Consider that distance and how they're like, oh, that's so far. He could never understand, right? Yeah. They'll never understand. California is even farther away than Washington, D.C. than the colonies were from London. Like,
yep. To close this out, where is this quote? Come on, I just had the fucking quote and it fucking pop up and blah blah blah. Okay, here it is. This is a quote from Murray Rothbard. He says, once one concedes that a single world government is not necessary, then where does one logically stop at the permissibility of separate states? If Canada and the United States can be separate nations without being denounced in a state of impermissible anarchy, why not the South secede from the United States? New York state from the Union. New York City from the state. Why not Manhattan succeed? Each neighborhood, each block, each house, each person.
Yep.
So on that note, let's throw out some plugs and get the buck out of here.
Yeah. So buy Derica's book, buy her crochet pattern, links are in the description. Check out thebeardstruggle.com. Use code InkTheAnarchist15. Get 15% off for beard care, redacted, or the RTA, the Road to Autonomy magazine. I'm hopefully going to be on the redacted podcast tomorrow.
That would be cool.
So that'll be pretty sweet. Yeah. So ideally, you will be seeing me hopefully tomorrow on Not a Real Liberty Luau tomorrow. Live, hopefully going live at 7 Central. So check me out there too.
So yes, also check out Bad Moon Hemp. The girl Crystal is doing fantastic products. The website is still a little iffy. She's still working on it, but you can reach out to her on Twitter. She's under Luna, and then it has the money sign ARRRR. So she's in the pirate chain. Or you can reach out to me or Andrew, and we can get messages to her, or reach out to the Facebook page, and we'll connect you with her. But on that note, yeah, let's make like a tree and leave.
Yeah, exactly. Make like a tree and get the fuck out of there.
God, I love that movie.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, all right.
But episode 152, I think is what.
Yes, 152, which I think I titled I think we need to break up.
It's not me, it's very definitely you.
It's definitely you. All right, we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Yep.